All right, hello G-Man 3B. Welcome along to your third recap of the season, the 3B buffet. Zord here, and Zord with full return of his voice, which is nice. It has been a bit of a rough week, but thankfully over the worst of it now, so here to bring you another look back on the week's action here in G-Man 3B. Appreciate the patience. Obviously the recap is probably later than we'd like this week again, but a combination of me being sick and also me having to do lots of actual work as opposed to this is basically the reason for that. So there you go, excuses in, all out the way. Should we do performance of the week? No questions. Grail Knights Cavalry. What a result this was, by the way. I assume you're all aware of what has happened here. But Arcani has, obviously, remember, came up from Tier 5 to this division this season. Is in his own head fairly convinced that he's probably not going to be able to fully compete at this level. And has decided that his team will be the Murder Brets this season. And oh boy, did they deliver this week. So... The match report itself doesn't look too bad in terms of casualties and whatnot. But that's because the way that Blood Bowl 2, the API reports casualties is a little weird. So if you go onto rebel.net, you'll see that the Bretonnians in their 1-0 win against Stuff From My Fridge, Ginger Wolf's Nurgle team, of course, who, if you remember a week ago, I said we're probably going to be absolutely fine in this fixture. You'll see 6 KOs and 1 casualty, which seems, oh, okay, that's not too bad. The problem is that, yeah, Blood Bowl 2 doesn't record fouls as a casualty. And in fact, Stuff From My Fridge have lost half of their team, or certainly a quarter of their team, this week. 7 casualties suffered, 2 dead, another MNG, and the Murder Brets finally, well, I mean, turning up and then some to quite literally stamp their mark on the division. So congratulations to Arcani. That's his first result of the season, really. So, his first 3 points, if you like. In fact, no, he had got a point, hadn't he, previously against the Orcs the week before. So 1-1-1 at this stage of the season, which is not bad going at all for a team that weren't going to be able to compete. Elsewhere, results-wise, what have we got? Well, we have this. Well, of course, Dusseldorf Rheinfire got themselves that free 1-0 win against the Admin Bye Week. Admin Bye Week off to a really quite poor start of the season, you have to say. And have now officially sunk to the bottom of the standings, which is good. Everybody at least has a point. So, well done, everyone. The Admin Bye Week is at the bottom, and they can't overtake any of you now. So, we've avoided that little potential mishap. As we saw, Grail Knights Cavalry there with a 1-0 win against Stuff From My Fridge. A result that puts the proverbial cat amongst the proverbial pigeons, if you like. Speaking of results to do that, the Sit Down Boys winning 2-1 against previous runaway leaders, if you like, Maze of Torment. So the Pro Elves are, well, they were undefeated still in this start of the season. 1 win and 2 draws now, and that's a good result for them against the Strength 5 Werewolf and also Clawpom Werewolf and all of their friends. Bitten Heroes 0, Thermonuclear Pom 2. So a first win of the season for Calcium. And in fact, a first positive result of the season of any kind for Thermonuclear Pom, who'd lost their first 2 games of the season, hadn't they? So Calcium finally with some points on the board. And can probably build from there, really. And as a nice bonus, Player of the Week this week goes to Sir Squirrel Dude, the Bull Centaur, who, rather impressively actually, managed to amass a whopping 9 SPP all on his own. So 2 touchdowns, a casualty, and 1 completed pass from the Bull Centaur, meaning that he actually leveled this week and we will take a little bit of a look at that later on. Because it was a good one for, for Calcium certainly, for everybody else not so much. So there you go, player of the week going to Sir Squirrel Dude. Elsewhere, Zunk also getting his first win of the season, as Gorka Seidel Tendencies won 2-0 against Umveltschützerinnen. Actually called that result, so hooray for me. Zamaji Severo 1, De Happy Sons 2. Little bit of an upset, that one, possibly. I caught the end of that game, actually. We just happened to be eating some dinner and caught it on Cabal Vision. There weren't many players left on the field for either side. And the Orcs just managed to break forward and score on turn 16 to get the win there. And last but not least, certainly as far as Morplevac is concerned, Greenhorns 0, Third Guardians 1. For the second week in a row, the Murder Lizards, as they are affectionately or unaffectionately known now in this division, coming out quite comfortable winners against a bunch of Chaos Dwarfs. So Morplevac absolutely flying at the start of this season with some great results that left him clear on his own at the top of the table by a point. 2-1-0. With, of course, both, well, in fact, all of Samaji Severa, Maze of Torment, Stuff from My Fridge, and Umveltschützerinnen all losing. They were all the sides that were joint top on 6 points, weren't they, coming into this week? And all 4 of them lost. So that opened the door for the Lizards, who were previously 5th, to take over at the top of the table there. Right, so onwards to this week's injury report. And there it is. So, as you can see, most damage suffered this week. It is a tie between the Nurgle Stuff from My Fridge, as we talked about. The Murder Brats murdering them, to put it simply. And 7 casualties suffered this week. That's a tie with the Sit Down Boys, who did manage to win despite suffering all of that damage against Maze of Torment. And elsewhere, both Bitten Heroes and Umveltschützerinnen, both with 5 casualties suffered apiece. Excuse me, just needed a drink of water there. The throat's not fully fixed, but we're getting there. Key injuries, well, I had there wasn't a lot here this week, with the honourable exception of the Nurgle, where I basically had my pick. So, as you can see, Milk, the Nurgle warrior, with Blodgard, he is dead. Also dead from Stuff from My Fridge this week was Bacon, so both Milk and Bacon have very much gone off in Gingerwolf's fridge. Bacon was a rather nice Pestigor with block, tackle, guard and mighty blow. 51 SPP. He'd just leveled fairly recently. Well, he's dead now, so that's not really very good at all, is it? If you're a fan of the Nurgle, of which I imagine only Gingerwolf is. So Milk is dead, Bacon is dead, and it has been a very rough week for Stuff from My Fridge. The Happy Sons also taken a couple of bad hits this week against the Norse, despite getting that win. An armor bust on Docker, who is basically their star player, really. The only player on their team at level 6. But an armor bust on him now. So, you would imagine we'll probably keep that around because he is the ball carrier, so in theory, if you're doing it right, he shouldn't be taking too many hits, should he? But, yeah, that's not a nice one. You never like to see armor busts on high armor players. Or any player, really. And Clocker also took a movement bust, which is the guard, mighty blow, stand firm blitzer as well. So down a couple of blitzers for his game this week. Excuse me, just need to clear the throat again. Ah, there we go. Okay. So the Orcs taken some pain as well this week. In terms of the overall look for the season, well, most casualties caused, it's still the same top 3, just in a slightly different order. Maze of Torment and Third Guardians, utterly inseparable, on 11 casualties apiece, with Stuff From My Fridge back there on 10. But the Nurgle have now also somehow made their way into the top 3 of the most casualties suffered list, which also still features Chorfs, but as you'd probably expect, we now have the Pro Elves back at the top of that particular standing. The Sit Down Boys with 13 casualties suffered in 3 games, which is fairly impressive going, really. Stuff From My Fridge with 12. And the Greenhorns with 11. So we've got more casualties suffered than caused from the top teams. But of course, things like failed dodges and all that sort of thing that result in casualties would count as a casualty suffered, but not a casualty caused. Which is sort of... it goes a little bit of the way to explain that situation, but also fouls goes a lot of the way to explaining why Stuff From My Fridge are up there. The Dead Loner count continues apace. We got another one. It was a special one this week because Zarg Madeye was induced onto the Greenhorns team and promptly died. So, well done, Zarg. Morplovac's Murder Lizards absolutely flying through Chorfs over the past 2 weeks. So, no complaints there for Morplovac at all. Right, so what does that mean for the development report? Well, there it is. Just taking a moment to have a look over that. And the most SPP gained this week by the Orcs, Gorkocidal Tendencies, with another 22 SPP to add to their collection, which is very good going for a team that haven't really suffered much in the way of damage either. So they were on a bit of a rebuild season, and they're doing a very good job of it. Thermonuclear Pom in second place with 18 SPP gained this week as they kind of minced through the vampires. And again, inseparable, Third Guardians and Maze of Torment both with 16 SPP gained this week. Now we come back to the small, or as it is now, large matter of Sir Squirrel Dude for Thermonuclear Pom, who, after a magnificent week where he earned the Star Player of the Week and all that sort of jazz, 9 SPP on his own without the MVP, well, he rolled a double 6 for Strength, which means we now have a Strength 5 Agi 3 ball carrying Bull Centaur, which is quite good actually. There's your insightful analysis of the week from Haringzord. Strength 5 Sure Hands ball carriers are pretty good. Elsewhere, Smargy Severa managing to level Medininasti's Marge, the runner who was Bloodstep Strength 4, and he has Guard now. So another double roll there. Bloodstep Guard, very, very useful when it comes to breaking cages and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, very useful player there, has to be said. In terms of the season update, well, I mean, I know I keep saying this, but would you believe it? Maze of Torment and Third Guardians, inseparable at the top, with 52 points apiece. Stuff From My Fridge slightly behind now on 49. All 3 of them were tied last week, weren't they? But a bit more gained by the top 2. Means that they have gained the most SPP of all the teams this season with 52. Now, in terms of most SPP lost, Stuff From My Fridge have now, well, they've shot right to the top of the leaderboard here. Having previously been on 0, losing a bunch of their team in a week, as it turns out, isn't all that healthy. So there's a recommendation from me. Don't have half your team die. So Milk, of course, was the Nurgle Warrior with Block, Guard, Dodge. He was 42 SPP. And Bacon, the Pestigore with Block, Tackle, Guard, and Mighty Blow. He was 51 SPP. So losing both of them in a week. Everything else was badly hurt or missed next games. But 93 SPP lost now puts them in the lead of that fairly unwanted leaderboard. Umvel Chutsurin gained 3 more. They lost a line woman that only had 3 SPP to an armor bus, not keeping that around, so that just ticks their score up from 81, having lost that blitzer early on in week 1. And despite their week off, Dusseldorf Rheinfire still in 3rd place. Well, it couldn't get any worse for them, at least, could it? But no team managing to surpass them in the top 3, so they remain in 3rd with 35 SPP lost this season. So you have to say, Stuff from My Fridge suffering. It was going very well until this week, but Maze of Torment and Third Guardians, very much the 2 teams who've made the strongest starts to the season, both in terms of results on the field and in terms of how much SPP they're picking up to keep developing those teams. So those guys are the coaches to stop at the moment. And who is going to have the job of stopping them this week? Well, we'll have a look at the fixtures in a moment. I'll tell you what we'll do first. We'll go and have a look at the leaderboard now. But no, we'll tell you what, we can't do that because there's been a game already played. So I don't want to spoil the result of that ahead of the recap next week. So what I can tell you is it's Morplevac in the lead now with the 2-1-0 after 3 games, and one of only 2 undefeated teams now. The Sit Down Boys are down in 7th place, but they have 1 win and 2 draws, and then a bunch of teams all on 2 wins and 1 loss. So that's Margie Zavera, Maze of Torment, Umvel Chutsurin, and Stuff from My Fridge. All of whom have taken little bits of pain here and there, or certainly the bottom 2 have. Maze of Torment, I'll fully retract that statement because they're going absolutely fine. Elsewhere, you've got Gorkacidal Tendencies with a 1-1-1 record. The Happy Sons are 1-0-2 alongside the Greenhorns and Thermonuclear Palm. So the 2 Chorf teams not off to a particularly great start, but they have both played the Nurgle and they have both played the Lizards as well. So in terms of teams that might beat them up, there's the Necro left, and other than that, we're kind of running out of teams that might beat those guys up. So you can maybe expect the Chorfs to both start climbing the table a bit in the coming week. Excuse me. The voice is still a little, I guess, irritable is the word for it. So just having to keep muting the microphone here because you don't want to hear me hacking my guts out, I assume. Dusseldorf Rheinfire also in, well, they're up in 12th place now, having got their first result of the season thanks to the admin week, and that leaves poor old Air 40 and his Vampires as the only team other than the bye week without a win now. 0-1-2 is the Vampires record, so the only way is up from there, quite literally. So yeah, who has the job of stopping Morplevac and stopping Maze of Torment this week? Well, here are your week 4 fixtures, and it is a bye week for Thermonuclear Pom, so some free development for Calcium without risk of losing any more of his players, which is good. And from my own experience, admin bye weeks really struggle to handle Strength 5 Sure-Hands ball carriers, so there you go. Stuff from My Fridge against Maze of Torment. Well, that is a bit of a doozy, isn't it, that one, you have to say. So from My Fridge, you might have thought would have been favoured in that one if they hadn't have just lost 2 of their better pieces in the previous week. So a lot will depend on what the Clawpom Wolf can do, and whether the Nurgle have any answer to the Strength 5, presumably ball carrier, on the Necro team. Stuff from my fridge coming in at 1580 TV for this week. Is that plus a loner rotter perhaps? Let's have a look. No, it's not. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's no loners there. 1580 up against the Necro of 1930. So actually a hell of a lot, between 300 and 400k there of inducements for the Necro. 350k if my maths is right. For the Nurgle, sorry, not the Necro. So it'll be interesting to see what Ginger Wolf does with that. On balance, you probably will favour the Necro to win. Both teams are regen teams, of course, and the Necro have that bench that they can leverage with a couple of dirty players as well. So probably going to back the Necro to win that one. Given, well, I am being forced to put on the spot because that's how the prediction thing works, isn't it? Elsewhere, Dusseldorf Rheinfire versus Veltschützerinnen. Well, the Amazons took a bit of a beating at the hands of Zunk's Orcs, didn't they? But they'll be looking to get back to winning ways against the Dark Elves. Obviously the question for any team that goes up against Amazons, the first thing you ask is, do they have tackle? And these particular Dark Elves, and it's pretty much even on the TV here, they have 2 tackle and one of them is on Mighty Blow. So there's good opportunities there for 2 of those blitzers to do a little bit of damage, gain some SPP. I am probably going to put this one down as a draw, I think, this week. Just on balance, has all the makings of a 1-1 or a 2-2 all over it, that one. Grail Knights Cavalry versus Da Happy Sons is the game that has already happened, so of course I'm not allowed to predict that one. So we'll have to move straight on. Bitten Heroes versus Third Guardians. Well, putting it bluntly, that is bottom versus top in the table. So yeah, it is difficult to see a vampire victory there, but of course if Hypno Gaze does its work and you're able to get vamps in, you generally speaking got a 2 dice against any skink ball carrier there due to the strength difference. That being said, with the way the lizards have been beating up Chorfs, you certainly fancy them to work their way through a set of thralls. So again, on balance, I'm going to go for a Third Guardians victory there to continue their very strong start of the season. The Sit Down Boys versus the Greenhorns is a battle of 2 of the most beaten up teams in the division, certainly from the first 3 games. I'm going to... that to me, I'm sensing 2-1 grind. So I'm going to back the Greenhorns here. The classic Pro Elf early score into Chorfs just caging up, removing elves, working their way down the field. Yeah, so going to back a Train Ra victory in that one, I think. And then Gorksidal Tendencies versus Zmaji Severa is the last game. Well, the Norse lost to Orcs last time, and it's Orcs again. So, based on that form, it's very difficult to predict anything other than a Zunk win. So I'm going to back a draw. There you go. I said a draw last week, it didn't happen, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to say a draw this time round between Gorksidal Tendencies and Zmaji Severa. Right, so that is pretty much going to be that. I appear to need to go and, I don't know, take something to get rid of this throat issue still. So apologies for the pauses and that while I had to sort of cough or take a drink or whatever. I've got to keep the voice ready for Chaos Cup tomorrow because I've got about an 8-hour stream to do, which should be a laugh. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate it as always, and apologies for the delay in getting this out to you. Good luck everyone who hasn't already played the game this week, and I will be back with the week 4 recap. I'll try to make it as close to Wednesday as I can next week. Cheers.